As runners, we all challenge ourselves in ways we never thought possible, pushing the boundaries of what we're capable of to smash through targets and set ourselves new, bigger and better ones.
This awesome hobby that we share gives us one thing in common, and it brings us together as a community. Whether you're working towards completing your first parkrun or you're a veteran of the sport who's run 100 ultra marathons, we all know the feeling of reaching that maxed out effort and our own red line.
Welcome to our podcast, where your hosts Brett Elsmore and Andy Maguire discuss the struggles, the successes and everything in between on our running journeys, as we all work towards the next time we're running the red line. Right then, welcome to episode 7 of Running the Red Line. I am Brett and I am here with my co-host Andy. How are you doing this week, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Episode 7.
I know
this was the tricky, the stumbling block for most podcasts, wasn't it? They never get past
reached that
7
magic
episodes.
number.
That is absolutely mental.
Basically, all we've got to do is make sure that we don't hate each other by the end of this episode, and we've still got the equipment to do it, and we'll be all right.
Let's not put all our eggs in one basket, but you never know. but this episode could last about 3 days, so there's still time. Do you know, we were just chatting off air about the podcast, and I know you shouldn't really get obsessed with numbers, but I get a bit obsessed with numbers. And these are crazy numbers. We're getting we just got to say thank you so much to everyone that has listened, because it's mega flattering. Like seeing these numbers really and the amount of people that listen. And I think before your BEOTPQ, your Brett's end of the podcast quiz, you can have a Brett's beginning of the podcast quiz. What do you think? Can you name our top 5 countries listened to or downloads?
Top 5 countries, man. It's mad that we've got 5 countries listening to us, let alone top 5.
Well, I think the first 2 of goes hopefully will be the most obvious.
Yeah, obviously first one's got to be UK.
Yeah, with 83% of our listeners. Yeah.
Other English-speaking countries, so America.
Yes, that's number 2 with 4%. Now the next 3, one of them is not a natively English-speaking country.
Oh wow! Okay,
but 2 of them are.
Okay, so English-speaking. Australia
is in 3rd, so you've got the top 3, 3.81%.
Get in, man!
Come on, you're on a roll. You're on a roll. You're on a roll.
So I'm going to go now. It's got to be European countries then, hasn't it? Ireland
is correct. 2.62%. Can you get 5 out of 5? This has never happened in the history of the 6 and a bit podcasts that we've ever done.
I know.
Can you get 5? Don't ruin it now. Come on. Who's in 5th?
So this one's going to be a non-English speaking. Well, non-native English speaking. Don't give me a clue. Okay. Don't give me a clue. Don't give me a clue. It's got to be a European.
You've asked for it now.
All right. Sorry, sir.
Sorry, Miss Patterson.
Oh man, what do I go for?
This episode has got 3 hours written all over it, hasn't it?
Doesn't it?
We'll try and keep it sub 2.
Man, I'm just thinking like a country that's popular with running at the moment because of the big star. So do I go for somewhere like Norway?
We have had 0 listens from Norway, so that is incorrect. It's probably because we
Ruined
keep
it, and
slagging off Ingebrigtsen.
probably. He's so salty. Not even Ingebrigtsen's listening to us.
No.
So
No chance.
salty.
It's because we got Josh Kerr on this week. That's probably why. With a blindfold on.
Yeah, in a completely different face. Yeah.
This country makes up 1.12% of our listens.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know then.
5 and 6 are really close, and then after that, it's all like single figure listens.
Okay. Is it a European country? Am I right with that?
That is correct.
Cool. Okay. So Germany?
No. España.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our bottom 5 are Colombia with 1. These are all people that have accidentally clicked on it, aren't they? Denmark, Mauritius. Someone's on holiday, aren't they? Someone's taken the. Someone's just like gone. Oh, I need to listen to something while they're on the beach. Poland, and this is my favourite, Uzbekistan.
Oh, yes, Uzbekistan, amazing.
So thank you very much.
I reckon Spain is all the expats that are sunning themselves.
Oh, it's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or everyone before Seville Marathon, maybe.
Yeah,
last
possibly.
week.
Yeah. But man, that's amazing. The fact that people are listening from other countries is incredible. So thank you very much to every single person who has listened, even if you've listened for a minute and gone, nah, that's not for me.
Welcome, one and all.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So
did you see? I was going to ask you if you saw much of the Seville Marathon highlights, or did you see anybody? Did you know anybody that ran last week?
No. The only people I know that ran Seville, well, I don't know them, but who I know the names of that ran were Phil Sessman, who
he had a good run, didn't he?
Had a great run and hit the Olympic qualifying time.
So does that mean he's literally qualified now?
No, it means he's got the qualifying time, which means the UK now has 2 men that have hit the qualifying time. So we've got Emil Caress, who hit it in London, and Phil Sessman, who hit it in Seville. So we've got 2 men who have hit the qualifying time, but the UK can choose whoever they want for those 2 places. So even though they've got the times, they might not get chosen.
It could be ridiculous. It could be like the director of sports nephew.
No, not quite that bad. They've got to be within a certain number within the world rankings, I think. But
right.
Yeah. Even though they've got the time, they might not get picked. But that would be ridiculous if they didn't pick them.
He ran his socks off. Didn't he do sub 209? Was he 208 something?
Yeah. So I think, am I right in saying it was 208.30 the qualifying time, and he run
right.
like 208. Was he 208.10 or something like that? So had a real good run. But apparently Mark Scott is running London as well as his debut, so he's going for the Olympic qualifying time as well.
Is this Mark Scott who keeps cleaning up on 5Ks and 10Ks?
Yeah. So
he's rapido, isn't he?
Yeah, he's always been a 5, 10K guy, but he's recently stepped up to halves and he's going for the marathon.
Interesting.
Yeah, a bit like Butchart did, because Andy Butchart did that, didn't he? But it didn't quite go to plan over in America when he ran.
So do you know when the deadline for these Olympic trials is? Like, is London this year too late?
No. I think London's still within the time frame. So if people run the time at London, that gives us another space as well. But
interesting. Because I know Stephen Scullion from Ireland is hopeful to qualify, and I love his YouTube channel.
Yeah, his channel's great. He's got some. What I like about him is he's got some really good tips, but he also is so genuine and just puts it all out there. He doesn't hold back, doesn't try and put on a smiley face about everything. He shows you the bad bits and the good bits, rather than showing you just the polished look. I'm a professional runner. He puts it all out there and shows you exactly what the ups and downs of being a full-time runner is.
Yeah. And considering he's obviously not got a production crew running around after him, I think he makes some pretty good videos, to be honest. But he has the drone follow him a lot, doesn't he? And I really like his channel. So if no one's heard of him, if you haven't heard of Stephen Scully, and he's a really useful person to follow on social media. So yeah, go and check him out on YouTube, Instagram, and the guy just does. He's given me some great tips. I mean, my favorite thing that I've taken from him is steady running, which is something I wanted to talk about pretty much in depth today, because he's a huge champion of steady state stuff, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose that then goes into that whole conversation we had about the 80-20 of running easy and running hard for 20%. The steady running, that's what sort of throws the 80-20 out the window, because when you're trying to run in that steady state, it's not easy and it's not hard. So you're having more than two zones, which I think you need, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, before we come back to that, I've just got a few things on my little list. Here's what you can look forward to on the itinerary. These are just my notes, so I don't know what Brett's written down. But some of the things I think we should cover today are Henry VIII. I will elaborate later on. The Bourton 10K, Cross Country League and Cross Country Nationals, Coros watches, changing your schedule, your marathon training plan, steady state running. God, I've written a lot. Sorry, this is definitely good. This might be a sub 3 podcast. But treat days / takeaways and intervals, and the end of the podcast quiz. So that's what I've got written down. It's just some of the topics to look forward to on this episode.
So 5 minutes on each, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's what we always say, but you know it's going to... I've got a good 45 minutes on Henry VIII, mate.
And each one of his wives.
45 minutes per wife. In fact, I got 50 minutes on Anne Boleyn. So yeah, what about you? What sort of things have you got any notes written down that you want to?
Not really. I sort of went with what you've written down. I did throw a couple of things to you before the start of the podcast, and you've said them. So
no medieval monarchs in your
no, unfortunately. But I might go even further back and go to like Lancelot and all that lot next time in the next podcast. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but there we go.
Vikings or something. Well, the reason I've mentioned Henry VIII is because next it's a weird segue, but my sister lives in France and she's coming over to visit. She's literally on the ferry as we speak, and you know where this is going. Yes. Because she's a huge musicals fan, and so are her kids. And there is a musical, and I'm very similarly inclined as well. I'm quite a fan. I'm quite a bit, and I think you are as well. You're a big fan of a musical.
I love the musicals. Yeah. But I just did jazz hands for anybody who's listening. Yeah, I am a massive musicals fan. I have been for a long time, and love a good musical sing-song, and actually enjoy being on the stage, being in them as well. So yeah, good fun.
Have you been have you been in musicals then? Have you done any?
Oh yeah, loads.
Like pro or amateur stuff, or
yeah. I've been in quite a few musicals in my past.
What's what's one of your favourites then?
That I've been in, or my favourite musicals, full stop?
Let's do them both.
Okay,
answer both of those questions.
So favourite musical I've been in is Rent.
Yeah, One song, glory. Great tune. Some mega songs. And do you know, at our wedding, Laura and I, and my sister Louise, who's coming over to visit, we sang.
Seasons of Love.
Seasons of Love. We literally sang it. My sister started singing it because Louise, she's a ridiculously good singer, like Beverly Knight level. Yep. And all of a sudden, for the second verse, Laura and I just got up there and we started giving it some. And he was like, "Oh my god, I didn't know you guys are going to sing." I don't know if they were like that at all. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, Seasons of Love is just a mega tune. So yeah, Rent is one of your faves to have been in.
And so that's my favourite I've been in, and actually one of my favourites, full stop, as a musical. So being in that was a great thing. Also, in the top tier of musicals, there is a musical called Once, which is based on a film which won an Oscar for Best Song for a song called Falling Slowly. And the musical version of that is incredible. Went to see it a couple of times in the West End. And what was really good about it is all of the actors and singers play all the instruments as well. So there's no band. Right. It's all played on stage live. And then up there as well is possibly Tick Tick Boom, which is another Jonathan Larson musical. So the same guy who wrote Rent. And the film version of that with Andrew Garfield's great.
Right. And some homework for me to do. I know you've mentioned Once quite a lot to me, but I've never actually gone and checked it out. But the reason I was going to mention Henry VIII is because we're going to see a relatively new contemporary musical called Six, the Musical, which is on at the Wolverhampton Grand next week. And my family, our little crew, our little squad are all going to watch it. And I didn't have a clue what it was about. I booked the tickets and thought, I'm going next week, and I literally don't have a clue what it's about. So the plot is there are 6 women who are the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and they're all telling their story. But the songs are very contemporary, quite poppy.
Yep.
And you told me the score was strange, and
have you listened to it now?
Oh, I've had it on repeat in the car lately. And
it's amazing, isn't it?
I really think it's a really, really fun and sometimes very poignant musical, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So this week, I am one of those people that I get a little bit obsessed over things, and we've started watching, because we've been doing so much research, we started watching The Tudors, which I never watched first time around. So that aired, I think, in about 2007 or 6 or something like that. And I am now fascinated with Henry VIII, and I've done loads of research. And I'm just absolutely fascinated by the geezer as well. And what's even more kind of serendipitous is that before we even booked these tickets, Laura had booked a 10K in May at Hampton Court. So, which is obviously his royal palace where he lived. So she's going to be running around there. I'm going there I'm supporting that day. So yeah, that's going to be going to be fun.
While she's running around, you're going to be in the palace having a look round, having a look at Henry VIII stuff, and then basically checking the watch to run back at the finish to see her come in.
Well, there's a guy who plays Henry. He's got the full Henry VIII regalia stuff. And we were talking about stage shows. I was in a stage show, I don't know, 20 years ago, just after I graduated. So I was about 21. And I met this guy who told me that his full-time job is working as Henry VIII down at Hampton Court Palace. So I might go and say, all right, Rick, I know you can't say hello to me because you're in character, but do you remember me from Charlotte Badger when we did that show in Bromsgrove in 2006? Well, it's me. I haven't got any hair anymore, but it is me. See you later, mate. So yeah, I'll probably go and see. I'll probably see Rick that day. But yeah, that's how I wanted to segue Henry VIII, because next Wednesday we're going to watch Six the Musical, so it should be good.
First time I heard Six, I thought, what the hell is this? And then I listened to it a few more times, and now I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic. But it started out at Edinburgh Fringe, so it was written as a Fringe show. And then just caught on and got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's got a bit of a cult status.
Have you performed at the Fringe?
I have, yeah. I've done the Fringe 5 times. Yeah,
nice. I've been
really
up there a couple of times, and it's crazy, isn't it? It's difficult to
it's just
kind
amazing.
A lot of people will be like, oh, that sounds like just like rubbish, but like some of the best comedians who's anyone is up there.
Yeah,
some of the shows you go and see, but the best thing about, and I'm sure you'll probably agree, the best stuff, or the stuff that you come away remembering, is the worst stuff. Because there is so much stuff where you go and watch something, you think, oh God, I've just paid £6 to watch this show, and you're like literally the only people in there. You're in like a village hall, and they've got like, you know, you're watching them do the quick turnaround, and you watch them do the sound and the lights, because you've got to do everything yourself, and you've got the space for literally an hour. And some of the things you watch stay with you forever, don't they? Because the Fringe is just so wacky. It's so crazy.
It's bizarre. It's brilliant. It's absolutely hectic and frantic. And you'll come away from the week of the Fringe more exhausted than you were when you went up there, because it's just so full on. But it's one of the best experiences ever.
I tell you when I was up there with your marathon debut, I was there during London 2012, because I remember watching the athletics whilst watching the recaps in the morning, and then we'd have to go onto the mile to start flying, and I'd be like, oh, I just want to get back to watch like the track in the field.
That is crazy, because I was up there watching Mo Farah win the golds on my laptop whilst I was at the Fringe performing.
No way. So we stayed in somewhere called Leith, which is quite a popular part of Edinburgh. So we stayed in Leith, and we had like a friend of a friend's apartment or something. I don't know how we managed to wing that, but
we stayed in some university halls in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And oh man, so we were both up there the same year.
Well, our show was at 7 o'clock every night, and during the Fringe, there's the tattoo, isn't there? The air military tattoo, and we get fireworks and the cannons and the RAF going over every day at 23 minutes past 7 or whatever it was. So we'd actually be able to because our show that we were doing would allow us to improvise a bit, and we'd always try and work it into our show somehow.
Brilliant.
But, so we did the complete works of Shakespeare abridged. We did, which was all Shakespeare's works with 3 people doing it within an hour.
Oh man,
so that was
that's amazing. What venue were you at?
All I remember, it was called the Space. The Space.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, the Space. Yeah,
it was something like Venue 45. It was a church.
Yeah,
converted into a theatre.
Our venue was a church as well. That was converted.
Really,
it was called Greenside. You what? Sorry.
It was really close to Waverley, the train station.
Oh, okay. Yeah, ours weren't too far away from there. It was called Greenside.
Right.
But yeah, amazing. As if. But yeah, I remember watching Mo Farah and just screaming at my laptop, watching him run round and get those gold medals.
Because the Fringe lasts like the entire month of August, doesn't it? Very similar to the Olympics. So I think I was up there for the the majority of that time. But imagine if you're from Uzbekistan listening to this. Like, I've tried to listen to these 2 dudes talk about running. Where's Edinburgh Waverley?
Musicals, the Edinburgh Fringe, and
what is this tick tick boom? Is that a new fueling strategy? Right, should we move on?
Talking of Edinburgh, have you ever fancied the Edinburgh Marathon?
Yes, I actually tried to get into it last year. Because I don't know if you've ever done this, but I wasn't happy with my Manchester time, and I felt marathon fit, and I thought, I wonder if I could do another one, because Edinburgh falls quite late, doesn't it, in May?
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 6 weeks after Manchester, and I tried to get in, but I couldn't because entries were closed.
Yeah.
But No, I've always really wanted it because I've seen the elevation profile.
Yeah, it's net
quite
downhill,
good looking,
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
The first 2 miles is all downhill, and then it's flat.
Yeah.
So,
but I think we've had this conversation many times, haven't we? The thing that seems to put us off is that you run past the finish line almost halfway through your race, don't you? And then you've just got to do a massive out and back along the beach, haven't you?
Yeah.
And then you finish
and you don't finish back in Edinburgh.
So it is a point to point.
Yeah, so you've got to get a bus back to Edinburgh, which seems crazy.
Because you finish in like the seaside town of Musselburgh, I think.
Yeah.
Which is one of the next towns along, which is about, I don't know, 5 or 10 miles outside of Edinburgh, isn't it? And but the crowds, I've seen a few videos on it, and it looks like a really good race. It's just a late May marathon. You know what your look is like. You're going to get there, and it's going to be like 26 degrees.
Although, how many times have you been to the Fringe and it's been sunny for a whole week?
Yeah, not very often.
It absolutely chucks it down constantly up in Scotland, up in Edinburgh.
Do you know Edinburgh is like built on volcanic land? So not built. Yeah. Well, the settlement of Edinburgh is settled.
Okay, all right.
They built some volcanoes just to get some tourism. So Arthur's Seat, which is the big prominent peak you can climb in Edinburgh, that's a extinct volcano, and I think the hills in Edinburgh, that would actually be a really good place to train, actually, because I think Edinburgh has famously got like, I don't know what the amount of hills are, like 7 hills or something like that, but I think they're pretty. It's not a flat city, is it, Edinburgh?
Yeah. So that's why I couldn't believe that the marathon had the elevation that it does. Because you think of Edinburgh and you think of all the hills and everything, and then the Edinburgh Marathon is net downhill, which is mental.
Yeah.
So
but no, I would love to do it one day because I really like the idea of ticking off these, these big British marathons. So Edinburgh will be up there for me. London is one I've never done. What are the other big ones I haven't done? One, have you heard of the Snowdonia Marathon?
Heard of it, don't really know much about it. It's
a road marathon predominantly, but there is, I think, a couple of traily sections. I've seen people's elevations like out on their Stravas after, and you're basically climbing like 3 mountains. Like basically there's like 3 1,500 feet climbs or something like that. It looks disgusting. But when you see that, you think, I wouldn't mind having a go at that. That looks really good. So apparently it's one of the most scenic ones in the UK. And the other one that I really would like to do, well, there's Abingdon as well, which I'm considering maybe as a warm-up to Valencia, maybe, because it's in October, would be Beachy Head. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that's down in Eastbourne.
Down by Brighton.
Yeah, so like the Seven Sisters and the is it Burling Gap? Is it? I can't think what the place is, but the terrain is it looks very difficult. And I know a few people that did it last year, and they got the worst possible weather. They got that like 50-mile-an-hour storm weather, and it's a hard marathon to do in good conditions. But in bad conditions, it was like people were doing it in 7 hours, and that was like, I'm actually quite pleased with that because the amount of like mud, hills, the wind, the headwinds. So yeah, Beachy Head would be a fun one to do one day, maybe.
Yeah, nice. Talking of mud, I am absolutely gutted tonight because. Today, the news came out that the English Nationals cross country has been postponed.
That's
which
sad.
I am absolutely gutted about. And can you believe it's to do with the weather, but obviously not to do with running in the weather, because mud is part of cross country, and that would make it amazingly fun. That's part of the fun of running cross country, is the huge amounts of mud and making it difficult. But no, the reason it has been postponed, they've said postponed as well, not cancelled. So they are trying to do it at another time, but I don't know what they're going to do. The reason they've postponed it is the parking areas they had were all on grass and they're all underwater. So they're all flooded, all the parking areas. So there's nowhere for people to park. Which
And I imagine
really,
it would attract a lot of people as well. There's got to be
Yes.
thousands of people going. So
yes, but
Yeah.
logistically, surely they should have found places local and put on shuttle buses,
yeah,
maybe, to get people to and from there. Because that's what happened at Mansfield when we did the Nationals cross-country relays. We parked a few miles away and they had shuttle buses taking us to and from the course.
for what level of race was that? Nationals.
That was the Nationals relays cross-country.
So that would have been a lot of people there.
Yes. Yeah.
I wonder why. Yeah, I mean, obviously it would be a big operation last minute to arrange something like that. But why don't they just do that anyway? Like, why don't they? I don't know. Get you to park on an old airfield or something like that.
Yeah. But I suppose the thing is, though, it's at Weston Park where they have the V Festival and everything. So how have they not organised how to sort parking for thousands of cars? Because they have a music festival there where I'm sure thousands and thousands of cars are parked. So what do they do when there's bad weather for that?
Well, didn't they say that a lot of rain fell on already saturated ground or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. They said Thursday it was torrential rain. It was already saturated ground, and now all of the parking areas are like waterlogged and underwater.
Yeah.
So I can understand. It's understandable that they've got to cancel it, but I did see there were lots of angry people because they'd booked hotels,
of course,
to stay in. Lots of clubs who are from all over England had booked buses and coaches to take them to the Nationals, and they decided to cancel it. Well, postpone it today or the day before, so people can't cancel hotels and get money back from that. People can't cancel the coaches.
Less than 24 hours notice.
I know.
That's that's disappointing. I can totally understand why anybody would feel disgruntled about that. No matter, especially if you're coming from far away. That for an event of that size, surely they should have been making this decision Monday, Tuesday. They knew it was going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
And maybe they should
or putting into place other things and maybe finding some local venues that they could ask to use for parking.
Yeah, because people would have been patient, wouldn't they, with a plan B? Like people would have been, like we understand that we've had to move, 6,000 car parking spaces, so it's not going to run like clockwork. But I think the runners and the spectators and the volunteers and all that would have understood, right, this is instead of a 10 o'clock a.m. kickoff, it's going to be 2 o'clock or something. But I don't know. I mean, what time was the start time supposed to be anyway?
Well, there was races all throughout the day, so it started quite early. I think the first race was about 10 o'clock, and then the men's, which I would have been running in, the senior men's race was 2:30 in the afternoon.
Is that the last one to go out?
Yeah, and I think there was about 8 races. So but never mind.
That's disappointing. So it's not been cancelled, it's just postponed.
No, postponed, but they might put it on in a few weeks' time when I'm in proper marathon peaking mode and I won't really want to go and run cross country with the possibility of twisting an ankle and not being able to do Manchester. So
I can imagine that's the allure of cross country season for so many as well, because at this stage in your marathon training, it's not the end of the world if you were to have, a problem, like a serious injury or something, but not a serious injury, but pick up a niggle. But you don't want to pick up a niggle like 4 weeks before a marathon or 2 weeks before. And now you're 6-8 weeks before, aren't you? So, but disappointing.
Yeah. Talking of niggles, my man, my hip this week on Tuesday, I had an absolute nightmare of a session. Set off on this, like ran down to session and did the warm up. Perfectly fine, nothing wrong. Set off on the first rep. We were doing it was a 1K loop and we were doing double loops. And about halfway round the first rep, so just over a K in, it was like someone shot me in the hip with a shotgun. Just pain from nowhere. And then it just radiated into my back and all through my glute, all around my hip and everything. And I just got slower and slower and slower. And I was a bit down on Tuesday evening after the session because I was just in pain and really annoyed that it had affected my run so much. But it's better now. A bit of S&C strengthening and stuff loosened it up. A bit of cross trainer that loosened it up a bit, but it's still not right. There's definitely something shifted slightly, and it is trapping a nerve somewhere because it's sending some nice remember me constantly. But never mind. It's one of those. But there we go. Other thing before we move on to your week, because I do want to talk about your week, because you've done some good sessions this week, haven't you? But
I've had a couple
did want to go quickly just say about Birmingham League Cross Country, which I completely forgot to talk about it last week. How I forgot to talk about it, because that's all I was talking about to people all of last week. I think I told so many people and annoyed so many people with just talking about it constantly that I got all of it out my system. Yeah. So,
but on episode 5, we left everybody with a cliffhanger.
Yes.
From America to England to Uzbekistan, with Brett's team doing their last fixture of the season, and the cliffhanger was that you were top of the league, but you had some teams. Basically, if you finished in a certain position, you'd get promotion. Is that right?
Yes. So top 3 teams because we were in Division 2. So top 3 teams got promoted to Division 1. And we ended up the season with our A team coming top. So we won the division, which is incredible. I think we actually had a lead at the end of the season of over 400 points, which is crazy over 4 races.
Wow.
So the next closest team were over 400 points away. B team, which I scored in for a couple of races, our B team came top of all the B teams. So we won the B teams as well. And then the Masters A team, which is all of our runners over 40. So all over 40 is going to the Masters table as well. And we won the Masters A team. And I managed to score in the Masters A team for a few of the races. And our Masters B team won the B team Masters. So we got a clean sweep of all of them, which is incredible. So Bromsgrove and Redditch Athletic Club had an absolutely incredible cross-country season this year. So yeah, we did really well. I'm proper proud of every single one of us. We all ran really well. And although only the top 6 that cross the line are the scorers for the A team, but by other members of the club running well, it meant that members of other clubs dropped down the rankings, so their points position got worse. So that then meant that their score was higher, which meant that we had a better, and that's how we got the distance between like the second place team, is by other runners as well as our top 6 other runners running well and knocking their top 6 down in the standings.
Amazing. So Premier League next year then?
Yeah, so Division 1 next year, where we'll be bottom of it, and I'll be right at the back thinking, how the hell are they running this speed?
So a silly question, but have you been in that Division 1 Premier League? Have you been in that before? Is there a different caliber of runner in that league?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Or is it marginal? Is it really fine differences?
No. So the first race of this year, of this season, it was the Division 1 and Division 2 ran in the same race.
Yeah.
And so there was like twice the amount of people that there is normally. And man, some of the guys...
you could tell who was who.
Yeah, I think... I think it was Will Barnacote who won the first race, who won European under 20s.
Wow.
Was it under 20s or was it under 23s? But yeah, he won the Europeans, and he was racing at the first division race.
So it's like it's basically like a celebrity turning up to cross country.
Yeah, basically.
Wow. And what a fantastic name as well, Will Barnacote. That's a fantastic name. That's a great. So yeah, you can feel the difference, can you? Then
yes.
You've stepped up a level.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
But does that make you raise your game, though? I imagine.
I guess so. But yeah, we won't be winning races, and I won't be as far up the standings as I was this year. I think I came 66th overall across the series. So I was quite pleased with that, and I think I was in the top 15 in the Masters. So I was quite pleased with that this year.
That's amazing.
But next year I won't be anywhere close to that. So yeah, it's next level.
Right, because the standard. But maybe this time next year you'll be pain free and you'll be running.
You never know.
Like a young Will Barnacote. Next year you'll be flying. You never know. So, and that reminds me. I mean, because you're not running tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I know you might smack me in the mouth for saying this, but is that a blessing in disguise? Because you're technically going through so much pain. But I know what you're going to say, because when you run all out, the pain miraculously goes, doesn't it? But
yeah,
is that what you were relying on tomorrow?
Slightly, but yes, in the back of my mind, I have got, actually, it's possibly a good thing because I'm not in full form at the moment, and I would have been able to do myself justice of what I actually want to do. Because last year when I went, I still wasn't 100%, but I managed to push hard last year and got what I thought was a really good result for myself. So I was really happy with last year, but I don't think I would have got the same result this year. So yeah, it's probably a blessing in disguise. I
bet you'll probably drop a 17:10 parkrun tomorrow and then put yourself out for 6 months. Just to bite your nose and spite your face. I can't do cross country, so I'm going to get a PB.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to go PB tomorrow, but I probably will give Parkrun a good go and see what happens.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Do you know what the official distance would have been for nationals? Was it about 10K?
No, it's 12K. So it's 7 and
12.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of races, last week was not invited. It sounds like I'm blooming Will Barnacote. I've never said that guy's name so much in my life. I've never heard of him until about 12 minutes ago. Now I've said his name 3 times. I got a place on the start line for the Bourton 10K because I've been on the.
Did you actually go for it? You decided
so
to enter.
I decided,
Excellent.
Yes, why not? I'm going to do it. So, from what I understand, the Bourton 10K is a bit like the Telford 10K. It's sort of billed as one of these fast 10Ks that's at like quite a cool time of year. So this is obviously February. Telford's in December, I think, and I think it's designed to attract fast runners locally, and some will come from far, I think, to really try and have a good go at it. But yeah, I decided because the kicker was that I got my email through and it said you got 24 hours to decide. So when we were speaking 7 days ago, I'd had the email, I don't know, 6 o'clock at night. And I was thinking, I slept on it and I woke up in the morning and then thought, yes, I'm going to do it. Because I know if I don't do it, I'm going to be mega annoyed at myself. And it's only about 22 quid or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I'm actually really looking forward to it. The weather forecast for Sunday is dreadful. But that's not going to stop me. I don't know how to approach it. I'm certainly not worried about it. I'm not feeling any sort of stress or pressure about it because I haven't even had time to worry about it. There's certainly been no taper for it. So I don't know. I think I'm just going to go for it. In all honesty, I don't see any reason why not to chase a beatable 10K PB. I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah, go for it.
So all I've got to do.
So tomorrow for Parkrun, are you going to just take it nice and easy, just stretch the legs, ready for Sunday?
Yeah. So because I should have done a 30K run on my plan Sunday. I've now decided to do 2:15. So I'll do a 10K after Parkrun when I get home tomorrow, and then no, what am I going to do? I'm going to make it the distance somehow and maybe do a run somewhere about 8K, 5 miles, something like that when I get home from the 10K on Sunday, because the long run went on Wednesday, which I'll talk about in a bit. And yeah, so I can't remember what your question now. Was it something about
just taking tomorrow and Parkrun nice and easy, ready for Sunday?
Yes. Yeah, super easy. So Laura's doing my wife Laura's doing not really a workout, but she's got her own goals and targets she wants to try and chase down tomorrow. So I'll run with her, and that's great for me because I get to run with Laura, get to run with my wife, which is great, and the dog, and it's a nice kind of easy pace. And yeah, so that's the way it's going to be tomorrow. So looking forward to hopefully turning up to Sunday's race feeling quite good, because I did my long run on Wednesday, so I don't feel too, or was it yesterday? I can't remember. I don't feel too dommy, basically. I didn't want to do my long run tomorrow, if you know what I mean, because doing a hard 10K after a long run is probably not a very good suggestion.
No.
So I'm tapering the best that I can.
Did you not think, instead of doing your long run Wednesday, did you not think that you could have gone and raced the 10K and then added on extra afterwards as your long run on the Sunday still, rather than changing it to Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, I could have just broken it all up, couldn't I? I could have done a 10K and then a 20K with a half marathon when I got home. But when I've raced, I never really know how I'm going to feel. A race for me can go one or two ways, and lately they've been going the other way that I don't want them to go. And for example, after my Warwick sort of mishap, the thought of needing to do a half marathon after a run like that, or a decent run, just fills me with dread. So I'd much rather chop and change my plan. It's just the way your brain works at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that you've put your long run on Wednesday and put all of that mileage in your legs to then get to Sunday, and you want to run well on Sunday in a 10K, and you're going into it with tired legs, rather than doing your normal on Wednesday, getting to Sunday and racing hard, and then just adding mileage on afterwards. So you've still got that mileage for the week, but you're not going into the race with tired legs as much.
I mean, definitely sounding like you've talking from plenty of experience there, but from the way that my little brain's working is, I don't want to stubbornly miss out on a 30K run, which is nearly 19, 20 mile. I don't want to lose that from my marathon training block, because this Bourton on the Water 10K shouldn't be in my block. It shouldn't be there. And I never planned for it anyway. So whatever happens on Sunday happens. But I really, really wanted to concentrate. At the end of the day, I'm doing marathon training. So I was thinking that a broken up 30K is not as good as an all-in-one 30K. And I did it as a session I think I actually did it yesterday, because I did intervals Wednesday. And it went really well. The run I did was 10K warm-up or 11K warm-up, 10K steady, then the rest easy, which I could have broken up to do on Sunday, admittedly. You know, I could have done my hard 10K and then got home and then done the rest easy and maybe steady if my legs would have allowed. But I just really wanted to do that long run straight through. I think that's the difference. I didn't want to. I didn't want to surrender my long run. I didn't want to break it up because I've been doing that a lot lately. Well, not a lot lately, but I've done that a few times, and I've got this massive paranoia thing that lives deep within, you know, my psyche, rent free, and it's basically telling me you haven't done enough long runs and haven't got enough experience at marathon or steady pace at time on feet, you know, without stopping for have a cup of tea or stopping for. So that's why it was important to me, and managed to get the run done, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, well, I relate hard to that because I keep on telling people, like, they keep on seeing me limping after walking, after my runs. I'm limping, walking, and they're going, shouldn't you be taking it easy? And in the back of my mind, I've got, hang on a minute, I've got mileage to do. I'm in marathon training. I can't not run because I need to get those miles in my legs no matter what. So I completely understand where you're coming from, that, you want to do those solid long runs without any breaks.
And at the end of the day, it's all an experiment as well. I think marathon training, the way I do it, because I'm basically winging this. No, I'm not winging it, but it's like I mentioned a few episodes ago. Yeah, of course we are.
We're all feeling our way through it. We're not professionals, so we're trying to work out what works best for us. And yes, it takes a few goes to get it right. I've never got it right, so I'm still aiming for that place where I can do the marathon and think, I got that right. I managed to get to the end and fulfill my plan. So,
I'm just trying to. I think it might take me 10 years. It might take me 50 marathons to finally run a good marathon. I don't know. Some people will have, you know, a great marathon first time round and a dream marathon training block. But for me, it seems to be different every time. My body feels different every time. But yeah, I'm just kind of winging this, you know, and a hard 10K really shouldn't be in my plan, but it is. And I'm glad it is. And the reason that what I always come back to is I'm paying to do this because it's fun, because I want to.
Exactly.
If anybody asks me why I'm doing a hard 10K in week 7 of training, and I've got plenty more races, by the way, so I've got plenty more explaining myself to do, it's because I want to. Because I enjoy races. I enjoy racing them how I want to. And it's basically, without sounding too tantric, it's like exploring your own body. Do you know what I mean? Without sounding a bit weird. It's kind of like seeing what you're made of, isn't it? And seeing how you would push yourself on a Sunday where you otherwise wouldn't. Yeah. So I've chopped and changed a few things to suit, and that's just the way I'm doing it.
See, you keep on saying, look, I shouldn't be putting this into my marathon training block. I shouldn't be running a hard 10K.
Yeah, I know.
But what was I going to go and do tomorrow?
Yeah.
I was going to go and run a really hard 12K through the mud as part of my marathon training. So people can say what you should and shouldn't do as much as they like, but if you want to do it and you think it's the right thing to do, go and do it. Don't let people put you off.
And we touched on this last week, didn't we? That people will question, especially when you put your training out there for people to have an opinion on, people will question you on what you're doing. I remember before Amsterdam, which was 18 months ago now, the week before it, I went over to Metz, to where my sister's from, in France, and I did a 10K and I raced it, got a 10K PB on the Sunday before Amsterdam. And somebody said to me, was a hard 10K on your training plan the week before your marathon? I said, no. And I can't remember, sort of sarcastically, said something. And I'm now, even 18 months on, I still am so glad I did that. Yeah, I'm so glad I raced, because then I went to Amsterdam feeling full of confidence.
Yeah,
I was traveling Europe at the time, and I've got the chance to do 2 races. So why would you turn that down? Like, And I got to Amsterdam and I was buzzing on the start line. Obviously, I did a couple of runs in the meantime, but I felt amazing. And then, not to mention the physiological benefits of running hard a week before your marathon, because that turnover, that sort of those levels of VO2 max that I probably wouldn't have gone near, and then potentially would have felt quite rusty for because maybe we can touch on this maybe when we're both tapering for our races, but you and I have mentioned several times about tapering doesn't mean sitting at home playing PlayStation for 3 weeks, does it?
Oh, definitely not.
You can do intervals during your taper.
You should still put effort in. You should still have a level of effort in your taper. Your taper, we'll go through this in a bit when we actually talk about taper. Yes, okay.
Yeah. But that person in question basically had that old school mentality of you shouldn't be doing this because that's not how I do it.
But your answer to that should have been, yes, my coach put it in my plan. and when he says, who's your coach? You go, me. I'm my coach. So if you want to do it, but as we just said, you still can put effort into the taper as long as you're not putting too much in, then there's nothing wrong with it. But something that just popped into my head, it's the Osaka Marathon this Sunday. Over in Japan.
I remember Benner's Running did that last year.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
That was the one. That was the one. Really quickly, where everyone was sat on the floor, weren't they, before the gun went off? So the start line adrenaline difference between a UK race or a European race and Japanese, that was crazy. Sorry, go
on. But I've probably said before, I listen to the Inside Running podcast quite a lot, which is an Australian podcast. It's a really good one. And they've done a special series recently in the run-up to Osaka called Road to Osaka. And it's been following 3 marathon runners and their build-up to Osaka Marathon. And one of them had booked in a marathon Sunday just gone. And he still went and run it and won the marathon over in Australia.
Oh, wow.
And he ran like a 2:20. I think he ran a 2:23, 2:24. And like they were all basically going, "What do you think you're doing? Why are you doing that the week before? Do you not realize how much?" And he was like, "Yeah, but I did push it for the first half, but then I eased off and ran nice and steady for the second half, so I'll be fine for the marathon." They were like, "We're rooting for you, but can't wait to see you blow up."
Yeah, well, fair play. I bet he's like, well, it's not my fault I won. You know, just no one overtook me.
Well, he said he went out with someone else, and his whole idea was to try and get them under a 2:20. And by about halfway, they dropped off the pace. So he just carried on at the same pace. And the people that were talking to him said, hang on, so your whole idea was to pace him. And because he dropped off the pace, you thought, oh, just drop him there.
Just carry on.
Just carry on at that pace to drop him and win it. But I just thought that was really interesting. Imagine having the balls to go and run a full marathon the week before running your target marathon. Yeah. Is that
are those athletes like sponsored? Have they been given the Osaka Marathon as a freebie or anything?
Well, yeah, so they're running it sponsored by Mizuno. So they've been given all Mizuno kit and the new Wave Rebellion Pro 2.
I wonder what Mizuno are thinking of that. But this runner probably doesn't give a toss to see. He's probably thinking, I'll do what I want to do.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he's sponsored by Mizuno all the time. It was just part of this series of podcasts, and their run up to it.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
Yeah. Well, I hope I'd be interested to see how that goes. But I know people do that. You know, just us mere mortals do that, because I think a lot of people will run, if they're lucky enough to do it, they'll run Boston and then London, or whichever one comes first.
I know someone who, from Bromsgrove and Redditch Athletic Club, guy called Daryl. He ran Boston, did a 2:40 summit, and then went to London the next week and ran a 2:40, like high 2:40s.
That's mental, isn't it? That's absolute craziness. But you know, fair play, because YOLO, baby. I know that's like straight out of 2010. But you know, you only live once. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And
I know someone else who run 2 marathons in 2 weeks.
Yeah, man. If I could do it, anybody can do it. And do you know what? I enjoyed the second one more because I got to a point where I thought, wow, my body hasn't let me down. And I thought it would. I thought it was going to, if I'm honest, I thought I would have got to 10 miles. And this is going to be a personal worst today. This is going to be we're going to struggle to come in under 5 hours today. But I kept going, and I got to I actually did better than the week before. And I just enjoyed it. And it comes back to that. It just comes back to that idea of just enjoying yourself, and just like I went to York and Chester to literally run. I didn't go there to run at the best of my ability. I just whether I did or not, that's doesn't matter, does it? I went there to run, and that's exactly what I did.
You weren't going out for a PB, were you? You were going out to have a good time.
I was going out to see if I could do 2 and 2, and I did.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
and don't have any regrets in doing that at all. And I was even thinking of doing the Abingdon Marathon the week after to get the hat trick. But I the day before, which was the Saturday, I'd got a pretty intensive day of work, and there was a reason I couldn't do it. I don't know if it was an actual reason, cast iron reason, or more like common sense kicked in. It was maybe a combination of the two. But one day, yeah. And do you know what really excites me as well? A multi-day event. I would love to try and do back-to-back either marathons or ultras or something like that. I'm not talking like Marathon des Sables, but like, I don't know, something big. So that's something I would like to do one day.
Yeah, marathon distance over a couple of days to like fill up to the ultra distance.
No, marathon a day.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. A marathon per day over a series of days to build up to the ultra mileage.
Yeah. So that's what I would love to do. But who knows? Maybe this year I'll give it a try, and don't know. But your body can do more than you think it can. Well, especially if you're
it can.
Bad hip.
If you're not, if you're not pushing yourself fully for that, because I don't think you'd be able to do those 2 marathons, or as you're saying, 3 marathons in 3 weeks if you were pushing for a target time in each one.
No,
I think
no.
You've got to take them much easier, because your body is going to break if you try and go for broke in every single one.
Was it the notorious B.I.G. or Tupac or someone that said "Mo money, mo problems"? So it's a bit like mo speed, more problems, isn't it? It's like the fast, and that's maybe doesn't make sense to a lot of people who are like, well, no, I'm not like a sub 3 hour marathon, I'm still injured. But I just find that a lot of athletes it's getting injured as a part of the game. Yeah. And I wonder if the faster you get, the more likelihood there is to get injured. So I wonder if I was, crazily like you are, a 3 hour marathoner, 3 marathons in 3 weeks, maybe not at sub 3 pace, but somewhere close to that. Because I was running my marathons at over 4 hours. If I'm running closer to 3, then although that's less time on feet, the body's being pushed a lot harder. So it might be less attainable to do those multi-day things, or those multi-event things over a short amount of time. Yeah.
And you're a 3:30 marathoner, aren't you?
Whoa!
Well, you will be by the end of this year.
Well, I'm training. If I'm honest, right, my marathon pace that I've been training at is 3:30 pace, and I want to do sub 3:42 because that was last year's target, which I didn't get.
Yeah.
So I will, have a chat with myself on race day, on the Newport Marathon day, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to go out. Will I go out at 3:30 pace and potentially blow up? Well, of course I'll blow up because it's a marathon and it's me. Or do I go out at 3:45 pace or slower and then try and work into it? I still don't know. But all I can tell you is I keep calling it GIMP pace, goal marathon pace. My GIMP pace is, it's that about 8:10 or something like that. Just 5 minutes per K, which is pretty much a 3:30 finish. So I know that my body can run at that pace. So hopefully I can pull back, so hopefully, those 8:25s or those 5:10s per K, which is where I'll probably sit. It feels easy, feels doable.
Yeah. Your wording's very different to mine. You always use goal marathon pace, I've noticed, whereas I use TMP, target marathon pace. I don't like the word goal.
Really?
For running purposes, I'm not a massive fan of the word goal, because if you set in your head that you've got a goal and you don't hit that goal, you'll feel really bad, and it will affect you because you haven't hit your goals.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a target and you get close to that target, you'll still be happy because it's only a target. It's not a goal.
Yeah.
So
it's probably a healthier way to think about it.
I always use the word target. I use target marathon pace. That's what I'm aiming for, not what I definitely need to do. So if I'm aiming for it and I hit it, brilliant, that I've hit my target.
So
if I hit around it, I'm still hitting near my target.
So the run of your life, which was last year at Manchester when you'd ran 2:59:20 something.
Yeah.
What was your target marathon pace that day? It must have been something like 6.
So a target marathon pace was exactly the same as what I'm going out for this year, and it was 6:40 a mile.
So how many? I was going to say, go on. Which is what?
So that's 2:55 pace.
Yeah. Okay. So how many of those miles out of 26 were you 3 seconds out? How many of those? Imagine if there was a bing and a tick across each one of those splits. How many of those miles did you hit that target marathon pace?
So I hit 20 miles dead on target.
Like a metronome almost.
Possibly just under target time.
So was that your strategy then? Lock into a pace and just hold it for as long as you can. Yeah. No negative split, no positive split, just
I had in my head, I want to hit 6:40 a mile for every mile up until if I'm still feeling good in that last mile, maybe pick it up in the last mile. But my strategy was 6:40 from the gun to the finish.
So without sounding like I'm putting you on the spot now, but how come you decided that course of action rather than a negative split, for example, or an easier start, 2 mile and then going into target marathon pace? Does that does your OCD just kick in and you just love your watch hitting a little bit number? Yeah.
A little bit, but also because I'd set that as my target pace. That was my target for every mile. That's what I wanted to. I knew that if I run a 6:40 on every mile, that would bring me in at 2 hours 55.
One thing I liked about Manchester last year was, did you get given the wristband?
No,
with the times on it. Do you know what I'm about to say about the timings? I thought that was genius. So it was a little wristband, and you went to the information desk or something like that because they were giving them out for free, and you can say what time you were hoping to achieve, and let's just say it was 3 hours. It would give you your 5K split, your 10-mile split, your 15K half marathon split, where you should be if you were going to hold that target pace, which I thought was a really nice little touch, because I know a lot of people like to literally write it on their arms, don't they?
Yeah, I would have loved one of them because I was doing marathon maths throughout the whole race.
I can bet you were.
I was adding up 6 minute 40s throughout the whole race, thinking, okay, so 6 minute 40s, 10 times 6 minute 40, where should I be? So yeah,
And that must have made life difficult because didn't your watch not quite measure 26 mile either?
Yeah. So by about halfway, my watch was way out. So I started just using my watch as a stopwatch and finding the mile markers. So when I went across 20 mile, I was dead on time according to my time elapsed on my watch, but I was only at about 19.5 mile.
So when you crossed the 23 mile, then did you say to yourself, right, okay, I've just got to do a 21-minute parkrun or whatever it was?
Yeah.
You know, a 20. So what were you hitting 5K splits at? About 20.5 minutes, something like that? 21, something like that. No,
Good
did you say
question.
6:40? Yeah, 6:25 is a sub 25K, isn't it?
Yeah, so 6:27s will get you in exactly on 20 minutes and a 5K.
So you would have been doing 5K splits of about 20, something like that, 20, 30.
No, about 20 minutes, 40 seconds about.
Oh, about 24, yeah. Did you have that panic when you got, because it was tight, wasn't it? You literally got in with seconds to spare.
Yeah.
Did you have that 23 mile, right, just a parkrun to go?
Yes.
Or were you not even capable of thinking like that then?
I did have that just a parkrun to go, but my timings for that parkrun became very different when I hit 23 miles because I was in a world of pain and in a different place to where I was at the first 5K or the 10K split. I was like, yes, I've got 5K to go, but if I can hit this time mileage, then that's okay. And it all became, can I run under 3 hours? Not can I run 2:55? Because I knew 2:55 was out the window. It just became that target of 3 hours.
Yeah. I think it was incredible achievement what you managed. And I watched your video, that Manchester video, a couple of weeks ago, and I thought someone was chopping some onions at some point because when your realization when you'd done it and you could see you running up to the line, you were not even probably 100 yards away, and you realized you'd done it, and all you had to do was not fall over or something like that, and you would have done it. And when you realized that, it was like, this makes me think that maybe not 3 hours on for me, but maybe it makes me think that I can go and run a good marathon. And I think that video that you did is probably the best one you've ever done. Probably the best video you've put out, because that's and I'd recommend everyone to go and watch that video because it's a roller coaster, and but there's no other way to film a marathon than just literally film the chaos that's going on, and that's what you're doing. And
the bit that I was just thinking about when you were saying that is, I was like 100 yards away, and all I needed to do was not fall over. And I crossed the finish line and properly almost fall flat on my face as soon as I crossed that finish line. Obviously your body is in. I can't work anymore, but your head's like, I just need to get to that finish line. And I crossed the finish line and I tripped over nothing. I tripped over the floor and properly almost went down on my face, but I managed to stay up. But as soon as I crossed the finish line, my body just went, right, I'm done. See ya.
do you remember? I think it's called Talbot Road, isn't it? The finish line. Do you remember turning left at what must have been 25.5 mile at the top of that road, and you can see the finish line arch? Do you remember thinking that looks about 20 miles away? Do you remember thinking like, that looks so far away? So do you remember what was going through your head when you made that final left turn, when you can see the finish line?
Yeah, I turned to that corner, saw the finish line. The first thing I did was look at my watch and look at how long I'd got before I needed to get to that finish line. So how many minutes I had left under that 3 hours. And that's all I was thinking was, can I get to those traffic lights because there's like a set of traffic lights halfway down before you get to the finish line. So I was like, can I get to those traffic lights in this amount of time? And then can I get to the finish? And as I was going down that road, amazing thing happened. Harry, a lad called Harry Purewell, who I have ran like loads of races with. He's from Kenilworth Runners. He passed me on that final stretch, and as he passed me, he was in a world of pain as well. You could tell from the way he was running. But as he passed me, he went, "Come on, Brett, we've got this. You can do this." And that spurred me on so much and gave me that extra little boost that I needed to just kick into the next gear to get to that finish line. It was amazing how just a few little words from someone you know can give you that boost. Because I was, as I say, I was in a world of pain, and just all of a sudden, "Come on, Brett, we got this. You can do this." Just made me go, yes, I can do this and get to that finish.
Yeah. Because if you think back, that day was almost perfect weather-wise, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
like
perfect.
It might never be as good as that ever again, because you know what April's like. It could be glorious sunshine, but we got on that marathon day, we got like 7 degrees. At one point, I remember having because you ran in a singlet as well, didn't you, a vest? I remember feeling quite cold because it started drizzling for me.
Yeah,
I was at about 10 miles, so you probably would have been at like, I don't know, 15.
I was about halfway. Yeah, I was about halfway when it started raining.
I remember feeling the drizzle, thinking, okay, that I wasn't prepared for this, because this made me feel a bit. That was the first bit of negativity I felt on the day, and when I think back, I think I put a bit too much pressure on Manchester, on myself, and I expected it to go a certain way, and I think a certain amount of that was, you know, the whole YouTube thing and making a project and working towards it, making it a goal and not a target.
That's the thing. Putting our lives out there into the public domain does put a little bit of pressure on the races that we do, because when we say this is what we're aiming to do, something in the back of your head that goes, we got to try and do this now because you've told everybody you're gonna. So
well, yeah, that's it. And I felt like at halfway, I've bitten off more than I can chew here. And the last time, apart from when we did our Worcester, you know, half marathon, when I ran, I think I overachieved that day when I think about it. But I didn't overachieve because no one else ran it for me. Yes, you paced me, but no one else moved my legs for me, did they?
That's exactly what I was going to say. So you didn't overachieve.
I ran to my capabilities and my potential, my full potential, let's just say. But that day was probably the one and only day I've ever felt that I've really ran the red line. Do you know what I mean? That's the one day that I've really ran to my potential. And I mean, as well, I said, right, I want to run this time, and I did by 15 seconds. But I don't know. I just felt something. The difference between Manchester and Worcester race was the Worcester race was a harder target to achieve than the Manchester one. I know the Manchester was over a marathon distance and the Worcester was over a half marathon distance, but arguably the effort required was harder for Worcester because the pace was a lot hotter, and so was the weather. It was not cool that day either. It was about 17, 18 degrees that day. But yeah, my point was that I don't know how I performed that well, because I did a very similar thing. I put pressure on both races, but I think I put the target and the goal I had for Worcester was so outrageous. I just thought, right, it's all or nothing today. We might as well go for it all. And with Manchester, because my target was somewhat conservative, I think that allowed me to maybe get complacent, maybe. But and I don't know, I'm talking in circles here, because you might take from that, oh, okay, well, I'll just choose an unrealistic target then. And I'll just get, but that's not how it works, is it? Everyone's different. And I was 6 months further down the line with Worcester. So I'd already learned a lot from that Manchester run. So, and a half marathon is a completely different race to a marathon as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are
Like,
completely different.
It's a different like style of attack, isn't it? It's a different ethos. It's a different mantra. You can, well, I'm still learning. Everyone's still learning, but I think that, yeah, I may never top the potential I reached that day, because when we had a chat last week about marathon times, based on that time, I should be running 3:20. So is that my potential? Is that what I should be running? But yes, if you've got strength in your legs, yes, if you've got experience in your legs, yes, if you can deal with cramp, yes, if you can fuel correctly the night before, 3 days before, you understand hydration. So I feel like there's a lot more from the marathon distance to learn than there is from shorter distances.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. It's a whole different ball game. That's why you see such good pro runners who have been amazing at 5 and 10K, and then they step up to the half marathon and they do an amazing half marathon time. They run like 63 or maybe even quicker than that. And then they step up to the marathon, but just can't do it. And they don't run their potential at all, because it's completely different thing.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like, you could very easily, I say very easily, it's not easy at all, but you could go out and run a half marathon, which I have many of times, without taking any nutrition at all. And not taking on any like gels or anything at all. Like Alton Towers half, I don't think I even took on any water. I don't think I stopped at any of the water stations and ran the whole half.
Yeah.
But that would be physically impossible in a marathon. You wouldn't be able to do that. So you've got to get your fueling strategy correct to be able to run a good marathon. There's no way of doing that, without sorting that out. Whereas all the shorter distances, you can have a good race without having like a fueling strategy.
Yeah. And that's as well without having not even a coach, but like an elite level coach, that they can probably tell you what to take, when to take it. You know, a coach who you hire for, I don't know how much expensive. I've never hired a coach, so they're probably a couple of £100, aren't they? It's not their job to hold your hand and, wipe your bum. Like that, you've got to make the decisions. You're a grown ass man or woman. You should know when you're to take fluid on and gels. They can give you their recommendations and things like that, but at the end of the day, that comes back to what I said at the start. I think it might take me 10 marathons to really run a good marathon. I think I need marathon experience to be able to run a marathon well. And I think a lot of people would probably say something similar, because we can't always have that Kelvin Kiptum dream debut marathon when you run the third fastest time of all time. Because in all fairness, for most of us, that first marathon's the slowest. And we make horrible mistakes on that marathon. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine to make mistakes.
Of course it is. That's the whole way you learn to do anything. If at first you don't succeed, try again. If you don't fail, you don't know what's wrong.
Yeah.
How can you possibly make any changes if you don't make any mistakes?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I make a lot of mistakes. Sometimes I don't learn, but it's the not learning that is the thing that needs to make me learn. Because if you continue to make the same mistake, eventually you should iron out those creases, really. But running's a funny old sport, isn't it? Like, for example, I've run marathons before where I know I should take some water on at a certain amount of time, but I just don't. Or I know I should take a gel now, but I don't, because I don't want to break the rhythm of my cadence, or I'm in a really good I'm running some really nice splits here, and I don't want to put my hand in my pocket and open a gel packet and take it because that will waste too much energy. So I just won't take it. I'll skip this gel. And it's stupid things like that.
I won't put any more energy into my body because I might waste some.
Basically, I've had that thought many times. But no, I don't need this gel. I'll be fine. I'll show them all. I'll show them all. You only need
the problem with fueling and nutrition is the moment you need it, it's too late.
Yeah. I heard, do you know a funny story about that? I ran the Brighton Marathon, my first ever one. And just at the halfway mark, I was running in front of the 4-hour pacer. And the guy, someone asked him a question because it was a big sort of entourage in that, as you can imagine, with that group. I remember hearing the guy say, when should I, or they were talking about nutrition. He said exactly what you've just said. If you need to take some fuel on, you need some water, game over. Yeah. So try and avoid that like the plague if you can, little and often, or whatever your strategy is, just try and keep the wolf from the door. Because I remember him saying, if you need a gel, if you find yourself needing a gel, it's game over. And I was like, I think I need a gel. Oh no. And then he ran past me. And then I ended up, to be fair, my first marathon I'm proud of, I did 4:23 or 4:22.
Yeah.
And I was running with the 4-hour lot for a while, but then I remember just seeing them just crack on. There's nothing I could do. Have you felt, I don't know if you felt that when you've seen a pacing group run ahead of you or someone you're running with, they'd start moving and you feel like your watch is wrong. You feel like, no, I am running, 6-minute miles. I think you'll find.
Yeah.
But you're not. You're really running 9-minute miles.
Yeah.
Because the effort is getting more and more, but the pace is getting slower and slower. Yeah. I know that's when I remember feeling that for the first time at Brighton.
I remember the feeling of my first ever marathon in London, and being at about 25 miles in, feeling the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, feeling like I just wanted to stop, and a rhinoceros running past me. And that's the most demotivating thing in the world.
Oh, you don't need that.
A bloke in a massive rhinoceros costume just run past me. What the hell is going on?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, there's something else I wanted to mention that is kind of in line with what we're talking about training. Oh, quickly. I meant to ask you that this last week. You've got a new watch. Is this true? Ooh. Are the rumors to be believed?
Yes. So I decided to buy myself an early birthday present. And I took the plunge, which is a massive plunge for me because I have always been an Apple Watch user. I've had a couple of Apple Watches and I use it's been one of my daily things that I use for a lot of stuff. But I've always done all my running on an Apple Watch, and I have taken the plunge and bought a Coros Pace 3.
Nice.
So
how's it performing?
Do you know what? It's great. It's really good.
Yeah.
I charged it up fully when I got it last Friday. And I've recorded all of my running since Parkrun last Saturday morning, and it's still on 35% of battery. So,
wow.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Quite crazy. So
are you ever going to part ways with your Apple Watch?
Well, this is the thing. So I tried over the first couple of days and I just couldn't do it because there's a few things on my Apple Watch that I use daily that aren't on the Coros watch.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really struggle to move away from things like that. So I drive quite an old car. So there is no Bluetooth. There is nothing like that. So my hands-free when I'm in my car and driving is my Apple Watch. So I take calls on my Apple Watch and talk into it, and it's like speaks out the watch. So I can use it as my hands-free. And the other thing I use it for is when I'm up at my shop, because it's in the middle of the countryside, it's pitch black at night. So if I finish late at night, there's a torch function on the Apple Watch, and it makes the screen really bright, and you can use it as a torch for when you're locking up and things. So those two features just alone are things that I use pretty much daily. So it's going to be really difficult to move away from using those. But as a running watch, I've now moved away from the Apple Watch. The thing that did it for me, I've been thinking about it for the last couple of years, but the thing that finally broke the camel's back is to be able to mark laps on an Apple Watch, you have to double tap the screen because it's a touchscreen watch.
Yeah.
So when your hands are cold in the winter and your hands don't quite work, it's really difficult to double tap because your hands don't quite work quick enough to do a double tap. When it's raining, the touchscreen doesn't want to work properly because it's got wet all over it. So it's really difficult to double tap a screen to mark a lap on that. So I needed one with a button, and you can get an Apple Watch that has got a button for marking laps, but it's the Apple Watch Ultra, which is about 800 quid. And I didn't want to spend 800 quid on a watch. So I had a look at what the watches are, and if it's good enough for the GOAT, it's good enough for me. So Eliud Kipchoge uses a Pace 3. So I decided to go for it. I've bought my Apple Watch is red, and they do a Pace 3 in red. So I was like, yes, I've got the same color. And it's great. Having that button to do the lap function is a really good thing to have. And there's loads of extra metrics on there and you can change the screens and stuff. You can do that on the Apple Watch, but it's great. And the Coros app that goes with it, there's lots of things on there which are good. And it all syncs and goes to Strava in exactly the same way. So I'm quite pleased.
That's good. Well, I must confess I'm looking at the middle tier one, which I think is called the Apex, I think. Because I've got a 100k race in July, and I don't think my Garmin is going to stay, because I might have to have a GPS as well. And that's the reason I wouldn't get the Pace, because the Pace 3 has got a map facility, but it's only a breadcrumb thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So if I'm off course, which I'm going to be, and it says you should be, 100 meters that way, and there's a cliff, I'll just fall off it, probably, knowing me, because it wouldn't be marked on the map. It's just saying you need to get back on the breadcrumb trail. But I think the next one up, which is still very reasonably priced, I think it's about 500-ish, 5.6 maybe 550, which is the Apex. And then the one, the daddy is like the Vertix, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think it's the Vertix, yeah.
And that's about 900 or something. I don't quite know what that does. It's probably got about 4 years of battery life or something, hasn't it? But so I think I might have to invest. And I think the Coros is, I mean, I like my Garmin. Don't get me wrong. I've had some good times with my Garmin. I like the app. I like creating courses and workouts on it, but it's much of a muchness. You can do that on everything now. You can do that on every single app. And like you say, if it's good enough for the GOAT, it should be good enough for all of us.
Well, so that's the thing. Yeah, I couldn't believe the price of the Pace as well. The fact that it is only 220 quid full price.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And of course, I've got a sports shoes discount code, so I got it a bit cheaper.
Nice.
So under £200 for a watch that does as much as it does and has got the battery life that it has. It was a no-brainer. So happy birthday, Brett! And there we go.
When is your birthday? I should ask. I don't even know.
It's on Monday.
It's on Monday.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was on Monday. So that'll be like the 26th. 26th. Put it on your calendars, everyone. 26th. Well, I'm exactly 6 months down the line. I'm 26th of September. So,
nice.
I knew it was around now.
Yeah. I've also bought myself another early birthday present, which is arriving tomorrow.
Nice. Shoes?
So I have bought myself another pair of Takumi Zen. Yes.
Ah, of course. What'd you go for? The 9s or the 10s?
I've gone for the 9s. I didn't want to pay 10 prices at the moment because they're like full price. So I went for the 9s, but went for the blue colorway to go along with my solar red ones I've already got. So
you've already got the Sen 9s?
Yes, I've got. Yeah, so I'll now have 2 pairs, but you can never have enough.
And what will their function be in this new life? What will they be races?
I reckon my blue ones will now be my racers up to half marathon distance, and
including half marathon.
Yes,
up to and including. Yeah.
And my solar red 9s will turn into my training session shoe when I want a bit of speed.
Nice. I haven't bought any new shoes since Black Friday, and I'm getting withdrawal symptoms because I said to myself, right, with the rotation, get yourself set up. But the thing is, in a rotation like I'm doing, in a training block like I'm doing potentially 1,000 kilometers, which is like 600 mile in 16 weeks. So you could probably quite easily go through quite a number of pairs of shoes. But I think I've got about 5 or 6 for, horses for courses and stuff. But maybe I do need to treat myself. I'll treat myself for your birthday.
Hey, yes. I still need to buy Marathon Day race shoes as well, because I don't think, although they probably have got enough life left in them, I want that new poppy feel to my race day shoes. So I don't want to use last year's marathon shoes for this year's marathon, because I think I've got nearly 300 mile in last year's marathon shoes after using them. So although they've got plenty of life in them, I'm still going to use them quite a lot. I don't think I want to use them for marathon day. So I've got to try and find a new pair of Adios Pro 3 somewhere at a reasonable price. But the problem is all the ones that are discounted, they haven't got in my size anywhere. Yeah. So I might have to go for one of the full price colorways, which is a bit annoying, but.
Well, that kind of reminds me of one thing that I haven't even written on my notes. That I text you this on Tuesday and said, make sure we talk about this.
Yes.
But we'll have to talk about it next week now, because it's like a 20-minute long segment. It's almost as long as I've got on Anne Boleyn. So it's should you train in carbons? They're just remember, because that might be useful.
So that's next. That's next week's topic.
So the next thing I wanted to. Go on. I've got something in line after your next.
Go on. No. So I was going to say what I thought we should talk about next, but go for yours.
Well, quickly. I've been noticing lately that steady running really seems to suit me nicely, and I've never run steady so much so that this time last year I thought I'd invented a pace and called it bridge pace, because it was bridging the gap between easy and marathon pace. And because the gap in between those two paces that I use is, I mean, when I say marathon pace and, easy pace, of course, easy pace running up Everest is slightly, it's going to be harder than easy. But let's just imagine you're running on the flat. Easy pace for me is 6 minutes a K, which is about 9 minutes 30, something like that, miles. There's a big gap between that and my marathon pace, which is, 8 minutes 10, 5 minutes a K, which is about a minute and a half worth of grey area. So I thought, what happens in that zone? And it turns out everyone does it, or everyone should be doing it, and it's called running steady. Yeah. And I've been running steady now for quite a while, especially this training block. I've really been enjoying it. And I've actually been running steady more than I've probably been running easy. So I know that might be a little bit naughty, and some people might be about to hit the unsubscribe button. But I think that when I'm running sort of steady, quote marks, it feels easy. So what's the point in running easy? So I mean that's silly, of course, because I do love running easy. But
I was going to say, because if that is the case, then all of your paces are too slow.
Yeah, that is maybe quite true. But I mean, I'm not looking at the heart rate data or anything like that to really nail down what's easy, zone 2, blah blah blah. But what I'm doing is, whereas last year in Manchester training, I would do, let's just take, for example, my long run that I did on Wednesday. I did 30 kilometers or 28 or something like that, 26 maybe. And instead of, that's it, I did 26. So this time last year, I would have done the whole lot easy.
Yeah.
But this year, I've decided to not just do sole long runs easy. I will go no faster than marathon pace, because I don't really want to sort of go into that territory. The faster stuff is for the shorter distances, but I want to start implementing a lot of steady stuff. So I did a big 10K block steady in the middle of my long run yesterday, and it seems to be just giving me a lift. I don't know. It just makes me feel differently. It makes me feel good. I actually enjoy just increasing the pace, and then when you bring it back down to easy, you know that you haven't quite run to target or goal marathon pace, but you're not sort of taking it super casually and super easy. So again, physiologically, I don't know exactly what running easy is doing to me, but it feels like it's working.
Yeah. But that running steady is an important part of marathon training, I think, because easy, you're not quite getting. Easy for me is for recovery.
Yeah,
that's where easy sits for me. You do easy runs, but therefore recovery. When you're running steady, you are getting into that aerobic zone where it's comfortable, or comfortably uncomfortable. So it's not hard. It's not a really big effort. It's just a nice pace where you are actually putting in some effort, but not enough to really fry yourself.
Yeah, I should just quickly clarify that I was only joking. Like my steady pace doesn't actually feel super easy. It does actually feel like I am actually bringing some effort and energy into running that pace. So it's not easy.
No, I know it was tongue in cheek.
What I'm trying to say is I'm not finding it difficult to do.
Yeah, which is how it should be. That's how steady should be. So you should be able to run steady for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think it's it's a good thing for marathon training for sure. And I think the more time you can spend at that pace and get a feel for knowing that gap between that easy pace and that marathon pace, knowing that zone in the middle is really important to know how it feels when you're just off marathon pace and what that effort actually feels like. Yeah. Because marathon pace at the start of the marathon should feel easy, marathon pace, but then it's not going to feel easy after about, I don't know, 10K. It should start feeling like it's a good effort.
Like a grind,
So knowing that when you come off that marathon pace a bit and knowing what that feels like, it allows you to understand where you then need to push to get back to marathon pace.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good assessment of running steady, really, because, and what I'm finding interesting as well is that when I run steady, I'm knocking on the door of my marathon PB pace. So it's not much slower than my marathon PB pace. So in my head, I'm thinking, well, if this is feeling okay, then I can always fall back to that pace, having run hopefully a lot faster than it for 3/4 of the race. And then hopefully I should arrive at a PB. So yeah, it's interesting to run steady, isn't it? I think you, like you say, it doesn't feel, it's not really, I know it's technically that no man's land kind of the numbers are in that no man's land, but the effort doesn't feel that different to neither easy or marathon pace. Either way doesn't feel that much harder or easier. So yeah, that's why I've been really enjoying running steady.
Cool. Right, I've just looked up at the time. Should we think about possibly
PB.
Yeah, where we start to wrap this up and leave those ones that we haven't looked at this week, those topics for next time.
Yeah, because we can't just touch on a topic, can we? We can't just. No, it's good. We have to be thoroughly investigated. Well, you'll be glad to know that there is a BEOTPQ. There is a Brett's End of the Podcast quiz at the end of the podcast. I will quickly give you those questions. Now, this week, there is no connection.
Oh, okay. Cool.
The only connection is they're all about Henry VIII.
Oh, amazing. The massive guy who was like... Did you know he was not only massively tall, but do you know he became like really overweight? Apparently, it's because he got, I think he got really bad gout in his feet, so he couldn't walk. So he just carried on eating and was wheeled around in a chair. Apparently,
he was injured quite badly in a jousting match as well. Yeah. And his doctors attribute like his problems in later life to this infected wound that he got. I think that might be true as well. So he's an interesting character, this guy. Not a very affable fella, but no. Right. So I've got 5 questions for you. Let's see how you do. There's some multiple choice questions.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Question 1. I'll rephrase because you probably won't know this. Do you know when Henry VIII became king?
No.
Okay. So Henry VIII became king in 1509. But how old was he?
Oh. Well, if he had 6 wives whilst he was king, he must have been fairly young. So let's say, I don't know, 25.
You're thinking on the right lines, but he was even younger. He was 17.
Wow.
Yeah. Question 2, by the time he passed away, how many palaces did he have? Was it A, 23, B, 50, or C, 65?
I was thinking maybe, I don't know, 5, 6.
He had a lot.
First option was 20 something.
Yeah. He liked chicken legs and palaces.
I'm going to go in the middle. 50 something.
You would be correct.
Excellent.
Now name them. No.
Hampton Court.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, I'll give you that. Who was Henry VIII's first wife?
Oh, come on. I should know this from listening to the musical loads. Was it Jane Seymour?
She was number 3. The answer is Catherine of Aragon.
Aragon, yes.
Yeah.
It was,
She's Spanish. Yeah. So the next question, who was his last wife? Was it either Catherine Parr, Catherine Howard, or Anne of Cleves?
It was Catherine Parr.
Correct. Do you know the divorce?
She was the one that survived.
Yeah, divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, how many children did Henry VIII have legitimately?
Ooh.
He had 1 out of wedlock.
Yes, and he had 1 legitimately. Oh, more.
He had more.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
2?
He had 3.
Oh, okay. I thought he only had 1 legitimately.
So
Wow.
he had, I might have to double check this. He had Mary, as in Mary, Queen of Scots, I think. Queen Mary. Queen Elizabeth, as in OG Queen Elizabeth. And Edward. And I think he was Edward the Seventh. Edward the Seventh.
Mm-hmm.
But he also had an illegitimate child, which is where I am in the Tudors at the moment, with one of his courtiers, a lady who he took a fancy to, and they had a child called Henry, funny enough, but he died aged I think he was about 3 or 4 years old or something.
Yeah.
So there you go,
So
little bit of Henry VIII knowledge.
Little quiz question for you. So,
bring it on.
What religion did Henry VIII start?
The Church of England, because he
did.
wanted divorce.
Yeah,
Catherine of Aragon,
I think it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The church went, sorry, no, you're married. You can't marry someone else. You can't just get rid of your wife and go with someone else. He went, all right, then I'll start my own religion.
Yeah, I'll make my own rules, mate.
Yeah. I don't want her anymore. I want her. So I'll make a whole new religion just so I can get rid of her and get on with that one. Crazy.
It's absolutely fascinating, honestly, this period of history. And I like I was saying at the start, I get a bit obsessed with things, and I'm like, I just want to know everything about Henry VIII at the moment. So this time next week, I'll do it in the full, Elizabethan, whatever he is, Tudor regalia. So I'll be like,
I'm looking forward to that. Massive ginger beard.
Yeah,
huge, because you've just been eating like massive feasts every day.
I'll have a KFC bucket,
and you'll have a jousting injury,
and 6 women in the back. So that's Brilliant. What we're gonna do.
Amazing, right, dude? I think we should leave it there. It's been an absolute pleasure once again. Thank you so much to every single one of you who are still listening. Thank you to everyone who's listened to any of this. But if you're still listening, we really, really appreciate it. So, yeah, thank you very much indeed. And I don't think we've fallen out, have we? So we might actually...
There's still time.
Yeah, well, yeah. We might actually get past that number 7 podcast, which seems to be the death of quite a few, and we will see you for episode 8 next week. So thank you very much, guys.
I'll let you know how I got on for my 10K.
Oh yes, best of luck for that on Sunday. Let's run like the wind.
Yeah, hopefully I can bring home the bacon and give you some good news of the PB.
Yes, looking forward to that. Yeah, race recap next week. So look forward to that, guys. And yeah, we'll see you later. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.